In today's tutorial, we're going to start looking at Pong. And I've already built this file so that you don't have to watch me type, but we'll walk our way through this. So what you see on the screen is I have three layers. I have a background layer, so the background includes the little stripes in the middle, and it includes the actual color of the stage, which I've colored this beautiful pink color. I have a layer that I've named ball, but it actually contains the ball and the two paddles, and I have a code layer. So on the ball layer, I have three assets. I have two paddles and a ball. So let's go look at what those symbols actually look like. So we're going to look at the ball first, and with the ball, all I've done is I've created a little tween so that when I run it, it looks like it's spinning. Okay, other than that, it's just a drawing of a circle with some lines on it. And then the paddles is just a square with a rectangle, with rounded off edges. Very simple. So we're going to go back to scene 1, and we're going to have a look at how this works. The first thing we want to do is we want to make the ball bounce around the screen, and that's all we're going to do in this tutorial. In the next tutorial, we'll look at how to make the ball interact with our paddles. But this tutorial, we're just concerned with making the ball bounce around on the screen, and we're going to do that dynamically with code. So in order to make that work, we have to make sure that we've named the ball appropriately. I've named it ball, and I'm going to just, at this point, remind you to name the paddles, so right paddle and left paddle. And both paddles are instances of the same symbol. So now I'm going to go look at my code. The code for this is relatively simple. If you've been following along with the tutorials that I've done so far, most of this shouldn't be really all that new. The first thing I'm going to do is I want to be able to keep track of which keys are being pressed. With this version of Pong that I'm making, I'm going to use key presses in order to control the paddles. So in order to keep track of the key presses, I'm going to use these 4 booleans. So P1, player 1 up, P1 down, player 1 down, P2 up, P2 down. And I'm going to start with them all as false. All those are doing is those are keeping track of what keys are being pressed. Because if we're playing with 2 players, at least 2 keys are going to be pressed at the same time potentially. The next thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to create 2 booleans, left and up. And these are controls for the ball. So I want to know what direction the ball is currently moving in so that I can either continue it in that direction or make it turn when it hits the wall, for example. The last thing that I'm going to add is an integer variable called speed. This speed variable is how fast the ball is going to move in pixels. So right now we have it set at 5 pixels per movement. In order for all this stuff to work, I need to add event listeners. I need an event listener for the keyboard down, and then I'm sending that to the key down handler, which we're going to see in a minute. I need an event listener for keyboard event key up, so keys being released, and that's being sent to the key up handler. And then finally I need one for enter frame, and this is going to be basically my game loop. So I'm going to scroll down here. Here's my key down handler. I'm creating a quick addendum to this video because in the original version that I had the wrong key codes. I didn't realize that Flash doesn't actually use ASCII. It uses sort of its own version, which ignores upper and lower case. So to find key codes for Flash, the best site that I've found is this one, and it has this little table for ASCII to Flash. So on the left-hand side is ASCII, in the middle is the actual key that's being pressed, and on the right is the Flash code. So if you need any letters or numbers, whatever, this gives you the codes. So we're going to go back to our program, and we're basically setting up key codes for each press of Q and A for player 1. So when Q is pressed, then P1 up is equal to true. When A is pressed, then P1 down is equal to true, etc. We need to do the exact opposite with the key up handler. The key up handler says, for example, when A is pressed, the P1 down is equal to false. So you're just reversing the state of the Boolean. We want to get the ball to move around the screen. So we're going to create a function called moveBall, and in the game loop, that's going to be the first thing that we call upon. In the game loop, we're going to call moveBall, which is going to go to this function that we've created called moveBall. MoveBall takes no parameters as input. As you can see, nothing between the round brackets, and it is void for output, so it actually returns nothing. Inside of moveBall, we just have a series of if statements. Basically what we're saying is if the ball is moving up, right? So if up is true, then ball.y is equal to ball.y minus speed. So basically what we're saying there is, remember that the top left corner of your stage is 0, 0 on an XY grid. So if we're moving up, we are decreasing our Y position, and in this case we're decreasing the Y position by the amount of speed, so 5 pixels in our case. Otherwise, so if up is false, that means we must be moving down, so therefore ball.y is going to equal ball.y plus speed. The same thing, same analogy is going to work for left. The last piece of code is this is handling what happens when I hit the wall. Right now my ball is going to hit all 4 walls and bounce on any one of them. In the next tutorial we'll change that so that when the ball hits the side walls, either it hits the paddle or it scores a point and goes back to the beginning. In this case, we know that the upper wall is 0 and we know that the left hand wall is 0. So if the ball is less, if the ball's y, for example, is less than 0, then it should no longer move up. That means that it's gone beyond the top wall. So then we set up to false, which means the next time through this loop, it's going to go to this one instead of that one. Now the next part is a little tricky, finding this number, and here's how we're going to find it. We need to go back to our scene, and the first number we need to know is we need to know how big our total stage is. So we can click on the stage and then look under properties, and we see that this stage size is 550 by 400. The other thing we need to know is what is the offset for the size of the ball. When I click on the ball, you can see in this corner there's a little crosshair. That's actually where the XY position of the ball is calculated by is this upper left-hand corner, just like the stage is calculated starting at its upper left-hand. That means that the ball's X, for example, if it's right here, the ball's X is calculated from this spot, which means it's still on the stage and still is a legal position. We want to calculate from this side of the ball, from the right side of the ball when we go to the right side of the stage, for example. So to do that, we have to do a little bit of math. The thing that we need to know is the width of the stage, 550, and we need to know the width of the ball, so in this case 43 pixels. By using those two numbers, we can take 550, subtract 43, and that gives us 507. So that's the right hand side where the ball should bounce. We do the same thing for our lower bound. So our bottom wall, our whole stage height is 400, and in this case we subtract 43 from 400 and we get 357. Your numbers there will be different depending on how large you made the ball and depending on your stage. So you have to check that and do the math for your specific setup. So the specific size of the ball that you made and the specific size of the stage that you made. So now if we run this, we should get a ball that bounces off each side. That's the end of this tutorial. Check back later for the next tutorial in Pong where we'll actually become interactive. Thanks for watching.